Emma Matthews had been working the front desk at Hawthorne Palace Hotel for 3 years. Today had pushed her to breaking point. A burst pipe had flooded 4 rooms, the computer system crashed twice, and a tour group arrived 6 hours early demanding immediate check-in. By the time afternoon came, Emma's feet hurt and her cheery customer service smile had turned into a tight grimace. When the tired-looking woman in the worn coat approached the counter, Emma's patience had completely vanished. The lobby was buzzing with angry guests, and this woman looked like she didn't belong among the usual wealthy visitors. "Excuse me," the woman said softly. "I need to check in, but there seems to be an issue with my reservation." Emma looked her up and down, mud-stained trousers, old boots, and that terribly outdated coat. The woman's hair was messy, her face plain without makeup. In Emma's eyes, she looked homeless, certainly not someone who could afford their £300 per night rooms. "Do you have a confirmation number?" Emma asked coldly, not bothering to use her usual polite tone. "I'm afraid I don't." "There was a mix-up with my assistant," the woman explained. Her voice was gentle but clear. "My name is Rose Wilson. If you could just check the system." Emma interrupted her with a sharp laugh. "Without confirmation, I can't help you. We're fully booked with proper paying guests." She glanced at the woman's clothes with obvious judgment. "The budget lodge down the road might have rooms more suitable for you." Rose's eyes widened slightly. "I understand you're busy, but could you please just call the manager?" "Look," Emma said loudly, making nearby guests turn to stare, "we don't make exceptions. This is a luxury hotel. I need to help customers with actual reservations." A few guests in the queue behind Rose were watching now, some with embarrassment, others with the slight interest of people witnessing someone else's humiliation. Emma pressed a small button under the counter. Within moments, William, the hotel security guard, appeared beside the desk. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, standing tall in his neat uniform. "This woman has no reservation and is refusing to leave," Emma said, knowing she was twisting the truth. "She's disrupting other guests." Rose looked between them, her expression shifting from shock to a composed dignity. "I see," she said quietly. "Very well then." William, who clearly felt uncomfortable, gently guided Rose toward the door. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but if you don't have a reservation." Emma watched them go, feeling a flash of guilt as the woman walked away with her head held high despite the public embarrassment. For a brief moment, Emma wondered if she had been too harsh, but then another angry guest stepped up to the desk, and she pushed the thought away. "Next, please," Emma called, already forgetting about the woman in the worn coat. Later that evening, as her shift was ending, Emma overheard 2 managers whispering urgently in the back office. She caught fragments of their conversation, surprise inspection and owner visiting and unannounced, but was too tired to care. She clocked out, looking forward to going home to her small flat, where she could put her feet up and forget about this horrible day. That night, as she soaked in a warm bath, Emma briefly remembered the woman she had turned away. Something about her dignified response nagged at Emma's conscience. But she quickly dismissed the feeling. In her 3 years at the hotel, she had seen all types of people trying to scam their way into free rooms or services. It was her job to protect the hotel's interests. What Emma didn't know, as she drifted off to sleep that night, was that her life was about to change dramatically. The woman in the worn coat wasn't trying to scam anyone. And Emma's rude behavior hadn't gone unnoticed by the very person who could decide her future at the hotel. Tomorrow would bring revelations that would force Emma to confront the person she had become, and the person she wanted to be. The next morning, Emma arrived at work feeling a bit better after a good night's sleep. She walked through the grand lobby with its marble floors and crystal chandeliers, nodding to her coworkers as she passed. But something seemed off. People were rushing around, cleaning surfaces that were already clean, straightening cushions that were already straight. "What's going on?" Emma asked Olivia, another receptionist who was frantically polishing the brass bell on the counter. Olivia's eyes grew wide. "You haven't heard? Rose Wilson checked in last night after your shift." "The Rose Wilson?" Emma frowned. "Who's Rose Wilson? Who's Rose Wilson?" Olivia repeated in disbelief. She only owns 17 luxury hotels across the country, including this one. She's here for a surprise inspection. Emma felt a strange twist in her stomach. The name Rose Wilson sounded familiar, but surely it couldn't be. What does she look like? Emma asked, her voice suddenly dry. Before Olivia could answer, Mr. Porter, the hotel manager, appeared. His usually neat tie was slightly crooked, and beads of sweat dotted his forehead. Emma, good. You're here, he said, looking unusually serious. Ms. Wilson would like to see you in her suite. Room 712. Emma's heart began to pound. Me? Why me? Mr. Porter lowered his voice. She specifically asked for the receptionist who was working yesterday afternoon. That was you, wasn't it? The twist in Emma's stomach turned into a hard knot. Yes, that was me. Well, she wants to see you immediately. And Emma? Mr. Porter hesitated. Ms. Wilson seemed rather displeased. Emma walked to the elevator on shaky legs. Her mind raced through every guest interaction from yesterday. Then she remembered the woman in the worn coat had said her name was Rose Wilson. But that couldn't be the same person. The hotel owner wouldn't dress like that or arrive without a proper reservation. The elevator doors opened on the 7th floor. Room 712 was the best suite in the hotel, with views over the city park. Emma's hand trembled as she knocked on the door. Come in, called a voice she recognized immediately. Emma pushed open the door and stepped into the elegant suite. Standing by the window was the same woman from yesterday, but completely transformed. Gone were the muddy trousers and old coat. Now she wore a perfectly tailored suit, her hair was neatly styled, and her posture radiated confidence and authority. Without the wind-blown hair and worn clothing, she looked completely different, poised and unmistakably powerful. Ms. Matthews, Rose said coolly. Please come in and close the door. Emma's legs felt like jelly as she stepped inside. Ms. Wilson, I am so deeply sorry about yesterday. I had no idea who you were. Clearly, Rose interrupted, gesturing for Emma to sit down on one of the plush armchairs. But that's precisely the point, isn't it? Emma sank into the chair, her face burning with shame. Tell me, Ms. Matthews, Rose continued, sitting opposite her. Why should knowing my identity have changed your behavior? Emma opened her mouth, then closed it again. She had no good answer. Rose's gaze was steady. Yesterday, I arrived here after my car broke down 5 miles away in the rain. I had to walk part of the way when the tow truck couldn't come immediately. My phone died, so I couldn't access my reservation details or call ahead. Emma stared at the floor, unable to meet Rose's eyes. I was wet, tired, and in need of simple kindness, just like any other human being might be. I was horrible to you, Emma whispered, tears forming in her eyes. Yes, Rose agreed simply. You were. But I'm more interested in why. Emma thought about the stress of yesterday, how busy they had been. But those were just excuses. I judged you, she admitted finally. Based on how you looked. I decided you weren't important enough for my time or respect. Rose nodded slowly. 6 years ago, I was homeless for 8 months after my husband died, leaving massive debts. A hotel receptionist let me use their phone to call my sister when I had nowhere else to turn. That small kindness changed everything for me. Emma was silent, shame washing over her. Everyone deserves dignity, Ms. Matthews. Not because they might secretly be wealthy or powerful, but simply because they're human. Emma gathered her courage and looked up. I'll clear out my desk immediately. I understand if you want me fired. That's not why I called you here, Rose replied, surprising Emma completely. I'm not firing you, Ms. Matthews, Rose said, watching Emma's surprised expression. That would be too easy for both of us. Emma looked up, confusion replacing her fear. I don't understand. If I fire you, you'll find another job, perhaps feel bad for a while, but nothing really changes, Rose explained, moving to pour 2 cups of tea from a silver pot. Instead, I'm reassigning you. She handed Emma a cup, which Emma took with trembling hands. For the next month, you'll be working with Oliver Baker at our community outreach program. The hotel provides job training for people experiencing homelessness. Emma nearly spilled her tea. Community outreach? But I'm a receptionist. I don't know anything about. Exactly, Rose interrupted. That's precisely why you need to do it. You need to see people really see them, beyond your first impressions. Emma set her cup down carefully. Thank you for not firing me, but I'm not sure I'm qualified for this kind of work. Rose smiled slightly. None of us are qualified to judge others until we've walked in their shoes, Ms. Matthews. Yet you did so quite confidently yesterday. Emma felt her cheeks burn with shame again. Report to the community center on Baker Street on Monday at 8 a.m. Oliver will show you what to do. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Emma stood outside the community center, a simple brick building with a faded sign, feeling completely out of place. She had dressed in her usual smart clothes, but now wondered if she looked too formal, too stuck-up. Oliver Baker greeted her at the door with a warm smile and a firm handshake. He was a tall man with kind eyes and a relaxed manner that immediately put Emma at ease. Welcome aboard, Emma. Rose told me you'd be joining us. We've got 10 participants in the current program, all preparing for jobs in hospitality. The center's main room had been set up like a classroom, with tables arranged in a circle. As people began to arrive, Emma stood awkwardly to one side, not knowing what to do. The first to enter was an elderly man with neatly combed white hair and clean but very worn clothes. Good morning, Thomas, Oliver called cheerfully. This is Emma, she'll be helping with training this month. Thomas nodded politely at Emma. Pleased to meet you. I worked 40 years as an accountant before I got sick. Lost my job, then my house. Funny how quickly life can change. Emma shook his hand, surprised by his direct introduction. I'm very sorry to hear that. Don't be sorry, Thomas said kindly. Just be helpful. That's all any of us need. Throughout the morning, Emma met the other participants. There was Margaret, a young mother with a quiet voice who had fled an abusive relationship with nothing but her children and the clothes they wore. James, a veteran who struggled with loud noises in crowded places, making job interviews nearly impossible. Robert, once a successful chef before alcohol took everything from him, now 6 months sober and trying to rebuild. Each person had a story that left Emma speechless. These weren't the lazy, dangerous stereotypes she had imagined when thinking about homeless people. They were ordinary people who had faced extraordinary challenges. Oliver started the day's lesson on customer service skills, then asked Emma to help with role-playing exercises. Pretend you're checking in at a hotel, he told the group. Emma will be the receptionist, something she knows well. Emma found herself face-to-face with Margaret, who was practicing being a hotel guest. As they acted out the scene, Emma realized Margaret was playing the role exactly as Rose had appeared that rainy day, uncertain, a bit disheveled, without proper confirmation. I'm sorry, there seems to be a problem with my booking, Margaret said softly, repeating the line from their script. Emma felt a lump in her throat as she responded, this time with the warmth and respect she should have shown Rose. No problem at all, madam. Let me see how I can help you. After the exercise, Oliver pulled Emma aside. You're good at this, he told her. You have a natural talent for teaching. I don't know about that, Emma replied honestly. But I'm learning more than I'm teaching, that's for sure. As she walked home that evening, Emma felt strangely energized despite the long day. For the first time in years, she felt like she was doing something that truly mattered. The faces of Thomas, Margaret, James, and the others stayed with her, replacing the faceless stereotypes she had carried for so long. Days at the community center quickly turned into weeks. Emma found herself looking forward to each morning there, waking up earlier than necessary to prepare lessons or bring in treats for the participants. She learned everyone's coffee preferences and their stories, not just the sad parts, but their dreams, talents, and the small daily victories that kept them going. Thomas, the former accountant, had a wonderful way with numbers and was teaching younger participants how to budget their future earnings. Margaret, initially so shy, revealed a talent for organization that would make her perfect for housekeeping management. James had begun greeting people at the door, gradually building his comfort with new faces. One rainy afternoon, as Emma helped Robert practice for an upcoming kitchen assistant interview, she noticed Rose Wilson standing quietly at the back of the room. Emma's heart jumped, but she continued with the lesson, showing Robert how to properly greet a potential employer. When the session ended, Rose approached her. "How are you finding it here, Ms. Matthews?" she asked. Emma took a deep breath. "It's nothing like I expected. These people they're amazing. They've overcome so much, and they're still trying, still hoping." Rose nodded. "And what about you? Have you changed?" Emma thought about this question carefully. "I think about that day at the hotel all the time now. Not just because it was you I was rude to, but because I wonder how many others I treated that way. People I never got the chance to really know." Oliver joined them, carrying a stack of training manuals. "Emma's been a natural," he told Rose. The participants respond to her. "She has a gift for seeing people's potential." Emma blushed at the praise. "I'm just trying to make up for my mistakes." "Sometimes our biggest mistakes lead us to where we're meant to be," Rose replied. Later that week, Emma arrived at the center to find Thomas sitting alone, staring at his phone with tears in his eyes. "Thomas? What's wrong?" she asked, sitting beside him. "My daughter," he said, his voice breaking. "She's been looking for me for months. Someone at her church knew I was in this program and told her. We're meeting for coffee tomorrow." Emma felt tears form in her own eyes. "That's wonderful news." Thomas nodded, wiping his face. "I was too ashamed to contact her after I lost everything. I thought she'd be better off without me. But she never stopped looking." Emma placed her hand gently on his. "Of course she didn't. You're her father." "I need to look proper," Thomas said suddenly. "I can't meet her looking homeless." Emma thought quickly. "I have an idea." That afternoon, Emma took Thomas to the hotel staff area. Mr. Porter had given her permission to use the facilities for the program participants. She showed Thomas to the showers and gave him a new shirt and tie she had purchased on her lunch break. As Thomas emerged, freshly shaved and dressed in clean clothes, he looked like the professional accountant he once was. "Thank you," he said, his voice steady but his eyes bright with emotion. "Not just for this, but for seeing me as a person again." The next day, Emma helped James practice his interview skills. His hands trembled as they worked through common questions. "I can't do this," James said finally, pushing away from the table. "Who would hire someone who jumps at loud noises and can't look people in the eye?" "The hotel would," Emma said confidently. "We need night security staff, someone attentive to unusual sounds, someone who notices details others miss." "Those things you see as weaknesses?" "They're strengths in the right position." James looked doubtful. "You really think so?" "I know so," Emma replied. "In fact, I've already spoken to the security manager. He wants to meet you tomorrow." As the days passed, Emma found herself becoming more invested in each person's success. When Margaret was offered a trial position in housekeeping, Emma spent extra time helping her practice room inspection routines. When Robert struggled with kitchen terminology, Emma created flashcards and practiced with him during lunch breaks. One evening, as Emma was leaving the center, Oliver stopped her. "You know, when Rose first told me you were coming, I was skeptical," he admitted. "She explained what happened at the hotel, and I wondered if you were just here as punishment." Emma winced. "It was a punishment, at first. At least, that's how I saw it." Oliver shook his head. "Maybe at the beginning. But not anymore. You belong here, Emma. These people trust you. You're making a real difference." Emma looked back at the center, where James was helping Thomas with his computer skills while Robert showed Margaret how to fold napkins into fancy shapes. Something warm bloomed in her chest, a feeling of purpose she had never experienced before. "Thank you," she said quietly. "But they're the ones making a difference for me." 4 weeks passed in a blur of lessons, interviews, and small victories. Emma now knew every participant's story by heart. She had visited Thomas's new flat after he reunited with his daughter, who helped him find affordable housing. She had celebrated when James passed his security training and when Robert was offered a part-time position in the hotel kitchen. Margaret had moved into staff housing with her children, who now had safe places to play while she worked. The day of the program completion ceremony arrived. The hotel's smallest conference room had been transformed with balloons and a banner reading, "Congratulations, graduates." Emma helped arrange refreshments, her heart full as she watched the participants arrive in their best clothes, faces shining with pride. Mr. Porter handed out certificates while Rose Wilson stood nearby, personally congratulating each graduate. Emma watched from the back, not wanting to take any attention away from their moment. As the small crowd mingled after the ceremony, Rose appeared at Emma's side. "Quite a different scene from that day at the reception desk," Rose remarked quietly. Emma nodded. "I can hardly believe that was only a month ago. I feel like a different person now." "And what have you learned?" Rose asked, the same question she had posed in the suite that first day. Emma took a moment to gather her thoughts. "I've learned that everyone has value, regardless of their appearance or circumstances. I've learned that kindness costs nothing but means everything." She watched as Thomas proudly showed his certificate to his daughter. "Most importantly, I've learned that I never want to be the person I was that day at the front desk again." Rose nodded approvingly. "Your regular position is waiting for you starting tomorrow. You've served your month here as we agreed." Emma felt a sudden pang of loss. Tomorrow? But the new program participants start next week. Oliver will need help with the orientation and... "I understand Oliver would be happy to have you join the program permanently," Rose interrupted with a small smile. "If that's what you want." Emma looked around at the graduates, at their proud faces and new beginnings. At Thomas, who had shown her that dignity remains even when everything else is lost. At Margaret, whose quiet strength had taught Emma about true resilience. At James and Robert, who had overcome so many obstacles that made her own problems seem small. "I'd like to continue with the program, if that's possible," Emma said firmly. "I thought you might say that," Rose smiled. "Consider it done." Oliver joined them, beaming. "Does this mean you're staying with us?" Emma nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "Excellent!" Oliver exclaimed. "I was hoping you would. I've just received funding to expand the program to other hotels in the chain." Rose turned to Emma. "We need someone to coordinate between the hotels and the community centers. Someone who understands both worlds." Emma stared at them both. "Are you offering me a promotion?" "A new position," Rose corrected. "Director of Community Programs. You'll help other hotels set up what you've built here." Later that evening, after the celebration had ended and the room was quiet, Emma stood alone by the window. 1 month ago, she had been a receptionist who judged people by their appearance, who saw her job as a series of tasks to complete. Now she saw it as a series of human connections, each one precious and unique. Her phone buzzed with a text from Thomas, "Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible." 1 year later, Emma stood in front of a new group of hotel staff, conducting training at the 4th hotel to join the Hawthorne Community Program. The room was filled with receptionists, housekeepers, and managers from across the country. "The most important skill in hospitality isn't efficiency or even friendliness," she told them. "It's seeing the person in front of you, truly seeing them." Emma's office at the main hotel now overlooked the park. On her desk sat a framed quote, "See the person, not the appearance." Each morning, she touched it like a lucky charm before starting her day. Rose Wilson visited quarterly to check on the program's progress. During her last visit, she had brought Emma a small gift, a beautiful coat, similar to the worn one she had been wearing on that fateful day. A reminder, Rose had said simply. Emma never needed the reminder. The lessons she had learned were woven into her very being now. Every day, she greeted people with the same respect and kindness, whether they arrived in designer clothes or worn-out boots. And when new staff members asked her how she had gotten her start with the company, Emma told them the truth. How one terrible moment of judgment had led to the most important lesson of her life, that everyone deserves dignity, respect, and a second chance, including herself.